What up, big dogs? I'm your host, Coach Craig, and this is Athletes Unleashed. On today's episode, my guest is a current college student and former top-flight soccer player. We discuss her final club and high school seasons, winning the league MVP, prioritizing academics and college experience over playing sports, and her decision to walk away from the sport that she loves, as well as finding joy in playing for fun. Please enjoy my conversation with Maggie Yoshioka. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. You are a current student at my alma mater, UC Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. Always love a gaucho. And also an exceptional soccer player, someone who's played throughout their entire life, but at some point you made a decision to not continue in college, which I think a lot of players in your predicament would have gone a different direction with that. So I'll say it in the intro, but like for a quick background, you were a super high-level club player. I'm sure you've been playing soccer most of your life. Mm-hmm. And you were the league MVP and one of the contenders for an all-CIF spot in your senior year in high school. So most players in that environment and with those accolades are being recruited and have ambitions to play soccer at the next level. You are not one of those people. You decided to go a different direction, and everyone's career ends at some point, and some of us have our careers ended for us, whether it be injury or, not making a team or whatever, and you got to voluntarily end your competitive soccer career. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested how you came to that decision and what effect it has on you now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had already decided that I didn't want to play college soccer before senior season had even started. I feel like my decision came over quarantine, like over sophomore and junior years. Like I didn't really consider not playing my sophomore year, but once like you're not playing all the time, like you're in a situation where you're kind of stuck doing soccer in your living room and backyard, and even when you go back to practice, you're just like not doing as much as you normally would do. Mm-hmm. I feel like that left me alone with myself, like over that time where you're not like always playing, where your mind doesn't have time to lapse from like thinking about soccer all the time. Mm-hmm. I think that over junior year I still was considering playing. I know there were some coaches that I was talking to, like through email. I was sending like my like highlight reel out. I had like my stats and everything. Mm-hmm. I had a list of colleges that were like in-state.
What level were you looking at?
I wasn't too particular about the level, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I just knew that wherever I played, like, I thought a lot about like the financial benefit as well too. Like I'm lucky enough where that is not like my first concern when it comes to college, but I was just thinking about what school would have a good education over soccer program. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the college that I was most interested in when I was talking to a coach was one of the Claremont colleges. I can't remember if it was Pomona Pitzer or like the other schools. Yeah. They're like split into two, but I was like, it's a good location. It's a good school academically, but the level of the soccer program was like, I never remember it being like too big of a concern for me. Yeah. About like
you could go there, you could play.
Yeah. But it was, I don't think I ever talked to like any D1s or like, I think I mainly just talked to like D3 coaches, honestly. But I think just as I thought about it more and I was thinking about like, is this something I want? I think that question stemmed out of me, like my uncertainties about going to college and like what major I was choosing. Mm-hmm. And then I really had to like sit down and think, is this something that other people want for me, or am I going to enjoy this in the long term? Looking back now from where I'm at, I don't regret not playing soccer. I also think though that if I did play soccer, I would have found enjoyment in it. Yeah. I don't think that the reason that I didn't play college and soccer was because I lost my love for the sport. I still love soccer, I still play, but I didn't see that as something, I just couldn't see myself doing that in college. Like I would realistically try to picture myself like playing soccer and keeping up with academics. And it might have also been just like the emotional mental state I was at in quarantine too that contributed to this. But I just couldn't imagine myself happy. I imagined myself like stressed and worried, and I just really wanted, my idea of success at that point wasn't getting into college and playing soccer. It was feeling like fulfilled and happy. And I feel like I didn't feel that at the time. And when I thought about my future, I didn't see myself playing soccer. So I feel like that was what it came down to. It was really difficult though, because I know that like almost everyone in my life kind of like expected me to play.
Sure.
I think that
you're an amazing player. I mean,
yeah.
There's no doubt that everyone assumed that you would be playing college soccer.
Yeah. I knew that like my coaches obviously and stuff expected that at least, but I think that the biggest person who expected me to play was my dad. Like I don't think he ever considered that I wouldn't. And he viewed me not playing very differently than I viewed it. He viewed it more of like giving up or like quitting it, but I don't think that's how it turned out at all. And I also think it was like, on the flip side, my mom was like the opposite. She was very like, whatever you want to do, I'm fine with. Even like club soccer, when I was like, if there was ever a time I was unhappy, my mom was like, you don't have to do this. And I think that having those two views at the time in my household, like, were like, it pulled me back and forth a lot. Like I also considered, I was like, have I just wasted like all this time, all this effort to get to this level, to get to this point, only to not play soccer? But when I think about my life of soccer, I don't remember a time where I wasn't playing. Like I played ever since I was little, like doing the little mommy and me classes. Like there's literally not a space in my memory where I wasn't playing.
Right.
I don't view that as like a waste of all those years of like money spent traveling, because I think it was fulfilling in other ways. Like I don't think when I was doing soccer, when I was at practice and games and playing and just enjoying it, I wasn't just thinking about this is all for college. Like this is all. And I also thought about not just college life, like my life after college. I know that's like really far ahead for like a high schooler to think of.
It's good to be thinking about it though.
But I was like, when I get out of college, my life isn't gonna be soccer anymore. Like I know some people who are capable of like going pro, semi-pro at least, that like are at heart, and I can totally envision them in those spaces. But I just was like, that's not what I want to devote my college years to. Like I want to study something I love and devote like my all to that, and devote my time to these interests that I never had time to cultivate. Sure. While soccer was there. So yeah.
It's interesting. I think there are a lot of people who are in your situation who see it inversely, where they're so focused on playing soccer and getting to the next level and having it be, you know, the financial incentive and dedicating themselves to this thing, they end up missing out on everything else that soccer is giving them. They don't realize it until after the fact. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear, in retrospect, you're looking back, it's like, I had the opportunities, but I was gaining more than just time playing. There was more to you playing soccer than just becoming a better soccer player. Yeah.
I'm sure that people who want to play in college and are playing in college can agree with me saying this as well, though, that soccer was also a huge, like, mental outlet, escape, like, place where I could have something where I had to focus on, like, this one thing. I had to, like, be in, like, game mode at, like, practice or at games and stuff, and it was just very, like, it was very comforting, too.
Therapeutic in a way?
Yeah, it was, like, therapeutic. And just, like, having that, like, time where, like, this is something I can, like, lock in on. This is something that, like, I can control how I play. I can control all these things, like, versus, like, when you're just at home and away from all of that. Like, soccer definitely was I feel like that statement is it's pretty universal, but I feel like soccer was a lot for me. And there wasn't a point in time where it stopped losing that for me.
Well, you still play.
Yeah,
It's still an
I still
outlet
play,
for
yeah,
you.
It's still an outlet.
I think it's a difficult decision to come to. I mean, it sounds like you had many reasons
Yeah.
why you didn't want to. And I think for a lot of people, I talk about the sacrifices you have to make to be an elite player and what you have to give up, hanging out with friends, going on trips. You know, some people are going on vacation with friends and it's like, I'm going to play a tournament in a different state or whatever. But that time spent and the individual that you're cultivating, you can recognize that there's more out there for you. And some people, that more out there is soccer, but the fact that you're still playing and you still love it, like clearly it has given you quite a bit, but just in a different way than I think a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think that's also true, like all the sacrifices that you do have to make. I think that for some people, they don't view it as a sacrifice. It's just like something that happens when you want to achieve something else. But
Sure.
for me, that was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
For me, that was something I wanted to have more freedom in going out. I wanted to have like more time to like develop myself. I feel like people I think that sometimes high schoolers think that like high school is when you find out who you are, but like
then they go to college.
But then you go to college and like when you graduate you're like, dang, I really like have more questions now.
Well, it's people you meet, it's the environment. A lot of times when people go to college, they usually go away to school, even if it's not super far. Santa Barbara is not far from where you grew up, but you still interact with an entirely new group of people. You have entirely new influences. And I think when you are sacrificing a lot growing up, you either embrace that and you see like, this is really what I want, and I understand what I'm sacrificing, and if other people don't get it, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you looking at it in a different way where you're like, I've sacrificed for so long for something that I love to do, but there are other things that I'm passionate about, or I want to discover other passions that I have. And so stepping away from something that I love to do that I can still do when I want to gives you the freedom and the opportunity to discover new parts of yourself and new avenues of joy and passions to follow. I think that's a really cool thing, and I think a lot of athletes think they can't have that because in a lot of ways you can't. You have, if you're going to school to play soccer, you have to devote yourself to doing it, or it's probably not going to be the experience that you're looking for. But there's no doubt that even when you're growing up sacrificing, you're going to continue doing that in college. When you're devoting yourself to playing the sport, you got to work out all the time. You're traveling with the team. You have to make sure your academics are taken care of, obviously, but there's definitely things you're going to be missing out on. I talk to a lot of people about, spending less time with their friends or their family than they want to, or not being able to go to a party, making choices based on what your responsibilities are. And college for a lot of people is a time where responsibilities kind of go away. Your responsibilities to yourself and to make sure you're taking care of your business, but you also have more freedom than you've ever had before, and you want to explore that freedom. Yeah.
And that's the thing in college, like that would have been a sacrifice for me playing like soccer. I think that it would have taken away from like not even just talking about my college experience, but like my well-being. Like I think I would have ended up struggling a lot outside of the field, not just like playing, but in high school when I was traveling and stuff, those things weren't necessarily a sacrifice. It was just necessary, but like there was no connotation for me. But that's because like in high school you're still living at home. It's high school. Like, not to detract from that, because I still like struggled academically. Like I had good grades, but sometimes in certain classes I like was very
it can be difficult.
Yeah. But college is just, I just could never see myself. I guess if you want to take it down to like the simplest answer, it was just, I thought about it for a long time and tried to imagine myself there, and I just couldn't. I just didn't see myself enjoying it long term in college, and I'm very pleased with my decision.
Yeah.
Like where my life is at now. I probably wouldn't have gone to UCSB. I definitely would have not gone to UCSB. And like now when I talk to people, I'm like, UCSB is the perfect college for me. I can't imagine myself anywhere else.
I have to agree.
I know.
It was for me too.
And it just, yeah, I went through a similar experience. Like, I guess soccer was a lot more severe of a decision for me. It was like a lot harder, but track was something I also did for most of my life. Ever since, like, the youngest you can join is like 5 or 6. And then through 8th grade is where it ends. But then, like, that's when high school track starts.
Right.
Then you're not doing like youth track and field anymore. But that was something like I also devoted myself to like almost my whole life. And even in 8th grade, like the coaches are like, you shouldn't be playing soccer. Like, you should be focusing on long jump. It's going to be easier for you to get into a college and be on the track team at a college if you just like hone in on your long jump skills. That was like my event.
And it is true.
So,
like there are tons of women's track scholarships available. So for athletes out there, keep that in mind. But good.
And I mean, at that time I had just lost like my enjoyment of long jump. Very different than how soccer was. Like I'd never like lost my love for soccer, but track and field, like I just didn't like it anymore, honestly. I had a really bad injury when I was a freshman right after soccer season where I couldn't like run or jump, and I ended up making a CIFs, but I like was not happy about it. I was like, I'm not ungrateful for the fact that I made it here, but like why am I here? Like why am I even doing this? This is just because like, the track coach, I know him and he scouted me, and like my family knows him, and this is what my family thinks I should do. But I was just like, I don't want to be a dual sport athlete anymore. Like, it's tiring. Like, my body cannot take this right now. At the time, I was like, I'm so injured. I cannot imagine doing, like, long jump and all the strain that it puts on your, like, knees. Like, for me, it was, like, my knees and, like, my quads. Like, all these things. I was like, I can't play these 2 sports at once if I want to be serious about them both. And at the time, I was still serious about going to college for both of them. But I was like, no, long jump, you're automatically ruled out. I want to play soccer. And that was what I was better at, I think. Yeah, but it was like a similar cycle of people around me and coaches around me and people I've like ran track with my whole life kind of being like, you're not going to be able to go to college for soccer. You like track is your best option. Like track is where you
hear that a lot from
do.
Track coaches.
Yeah.
So you had the decision to quit track. It was easier for you.
Yeah,
and at that time, you're injured. You're probably still playing soccer at the same time you're doing track because of club.
Yeah.
So you're doing 2 sports at the same time. It's difficult. You decide you're done with track. And while it was a difficult decision, easier to make than...
Definitely easier, yeah.
So when did you actually decide when I'm done with high school or when I'm done with club, I'm done with soccer? And what's your headspace in that moment? Like I know there's probably a level of relief that comes along with it where you're like, I've made a decision and I'm okay with it, but it's something you've done your entire life and it's effectively the official end of your competitive, like elite competitive life as an athlete. So how are you feeling in the times leading up and then once you finally make that decision?
I was definitely feeling guilty. Like that was a big thing. I was like, I feel so guilty that I've put my life into this and like I have, like my parents have financed this. Like club soccer is not cheap. You have to travel, you have to pay for gear every year, ref fees, like all those things that go into it. And like that had been going on since whenever I started playing club, which is like probably in elementary school. I played for Adam Fry and like all those people. I played with like Lauren Benz all the way up, and like definitely guilt was a big one. Relief was also coupled with that, which was kind of conflicting. And it was a lot of confusion even. It was like I was worried that I would regret my decision. I was worried that I would look back in the future and say like, I feel like I wasted like that time.
You made a mistake.
Yeah, I feel like I made a mistake. And like confusion in terms of like, it was hard to to sort out like my feelings and my emotions, not just for soccer, but like the fact that I had to make this huge decision while I was like just having trouble making everyday decisions. Like, it was very like, am I doing this because like I really want to, or but like what other reason would there be for me? Like,
sure,
there wasn't like people telling me to quit, obviously. And I was like, I don't know. It was very, a lot of different emotions like pulling at me at once. But when I finally made the decision, and then I just like a little bit of time passed, not even like a few months. It was just like a few days to like really be like, okay, I've quit, and I'm not gonna like change my mind. Like, I'm just going to have the best senior season that I possibly can. Like, and that will be when club soccer ends for me. Because I always planned on like playing intramural in college, but I just didn't regret it.
So you'd made the decision before your high school senior year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I think I don't know if I've really told that to anyone. I think Brett asked me if I was going to play or not, and I was like, no, I don't think I am. But G asked me as well. But G was very respectful of every of his players' like decisions. He never like questioned it for me.
Brett, high school coach, G, club coach.
Yeah. And I just lost my train of thought. But it was like, my like dedication to soccer though, for my last year, my last club year and senior year, like it didn't change.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the effort that I put into soccer was still like the same as before, as when like I was thinking about playing college soccer. I still loved it just as much. And I don't know, I just felt, I didn't feel that different on the field at all.
Do you think it actually took some pressure off of you?
I think maybe, I think yes. In some ways, like, I wasn't worrying about looking good for any coaches. Like, I was just thinking about, like, doing the best that I could do and not doing the best for someone else. I don't know. I didn't, at that point in time, at the end of my senior season, I didn't have very many strong emotions tied to not playing soccer anymore. It was definitely, like, a little sad. Like, even now, sometimes I just miss the structure. Like, going to practice and, like, really just, like, grinding, kind of. But I still get that when I play intramural on the field for, like, the advanced league at UC Santa Barbara. That is, like, a challenge still. That is still fun. And it's also different because it's co-ed. So I never played co-ed, like, growing up, really, unless it was a scrimmage. And it's different, and it's still, like, new and pushes me the same way that, like, club would push me in a game.
Yeah.
So I don't, like, mourn my, like, club career or anything. Like, I just view that as a part of my life that is different than the stage that I'm in now.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of view it like that. Yeah. I just think it, like, about my high school experience, and like soccer is a part of that, and my college experience, soccer is a part of that, just differently. And it's just not like elite, like playing like in the D1, D2, D3, anything like that. Yeah.
I'm glad you came to those realizations, and it sounds like when you did, it gave you a little bit more freedom to have fun with it. And at least for me, I noticed in your senior year, it was a lot about your relationship with the team. I think that's what a lot of people miss when they step away, is the closeness that you have with your teammates. And I mean, you can find that in friend groups or clubs or organizations or what have you, but there's something different when you're competing with a group of people and you are reliant upon them for success. And so I know sometimes it's just nice to be part of a team. So I can see where when you're playing with a high level group of people, you get that kind of environment again where it's like, oh, I look forward to it because you thrive off a little bit of pressure. Yeah,
you do. And you know that you're going to be with a group of people who are all like thinking the same as you, like going through the same like decision-making processes in the moment.
Right.
Whereas like like I played novice as well, and that's just people there for fun who have never played soccer, who just want to try it, or who I play like with my like culture club, I guess, like just a student organization on campus, and it's kind of, you have that community, but like you're just lacking the competitiveness.
Right.
And then when you go to the advanced league, again, it's like people that just meet up like maybe once, twice a week. And I joined a team of third years, so it's people who've already known each other before.
Right.
So I like was like, oh, I like kind of know you guys now. It's a lot different than like knowing everyone for club, because
Sure.
you're not seeing each other like multiple times a week for practice. And you definitely, like, you go to the same school, but you're not running into these people really.
Right. It's a large
Yeah.
student body.
Yeah. But you still get that on the field where you're like, all these people want to win right now.
Yeah, everyone working together towards a common goal.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And that's like the part that is, I still find that in other places, but like it's a lot different of a feeling than finding it on the soccer field still. Yeah.
Is it ever like nostalgic? Like, oh, you say you don't regret your decision at all, but are you ever out there be like, oh man, I miss this?
I guess I miss the feeling. Yeah, I guess in a way, like, oh, I miss this, but I also don't think that I don't have it anymore. Like, it's not that I'm like cut off from playing soccer and stuff. Like, I think as an adult, I could join like an adult league and play on Sundays, like things like that. I'll probably know a lot of people from like UCSB for a good while, and just
Sure.
meeting up with these people. Like, you can play soccer with them, or just like finding people along the way who have those similar interests. But that's like not something that I primarily devote my time to anymore either. Like, when I go about my day, I'm not thinking about, oh, I have practice later, I need to like hydrate. Like, I need to like eat well for the coming days, like, and stuff like that. I don't know. It's nostalgic when I come back to Hart, obviously, but when I say that I miss it, I don't mean it in a way that's like, I think I should be there still. It's like, oh, well, like, those were just good memories for me. Like, I miss those, but I don't maybe miss, like, I miss being out there, but not like I should be out there still.
Well, I think you get to experience a lot of the positives about it still. Like, everything that you enjoyed about it, you have the freedom to go and enjoy it when you want to. So one other aspect that I deal with a lot of athletes is, eventually, we said it before, your career is going to end at some point. Nobody plays forever. And hopefully it ends on your terms, like yours. Some people, they end from injury. Some people end because they can't compete at the level they want to be at anymore. It could be a number of reasons. But for most of those people, yourself included, you have identified and considered yourself an athlete your entire life. And it can be difficult sometimes when you transition out of that mindset of, I am an athlete. Like, not only do I like identify the sport that I play, but the sport that I play is who I am. Like, I am a soccer player. I am an athlete. There are times that I've talked to other people where they've struggled with that transition from, this is who I am, and I have to kind of find myself when that's not me anymore. Did you find that once you made the decision and you're transitioning into being a college student and moving on to the next phase of your life, do you ever have any like personal confusion or any confliction with, this is who I was, but I'm not that person anymore, or I don't identify myself that way anymore, or do you still think of yourself as an athlete and it's just in a different connotation now?
I still think of myself as an athlete, like you said, in a different connotation, but I don't attribute like my main like identity to that in the same way that like in high school I was. Like, I feel like that label of like student athlete or like athlete followed me around like my whole life. And I felt almost like in high school other people saw me as like a student athlete, but that's not really how I saw myself, yes, as a student athlete, but I saw myself as like, that is not like the only thing about me. So that transition away from like the identity of like athlete, student athlete, things like that, I didn't have anything tied to it anymore, because I think my whole life with everyone else, because people would like voice what, like, oh, I expect you to be this way because like you play soccer and you have good grades, but like that's not how you are. Or like in my own personal life, like I was like, well, like I do so much more than just like soccer all the time. So the identity crisis part for me, it wasn't so much as how I viewed myself. Like I don't think that the way that I viewed myself changed all too much. I was like at that during the decision-making process a little bit, but I knew I was going to be playing soccer still.
Sure.
When I had already made that decision and I had just like, and I was comfortable with it finally, and I was like, this is what's right for me. I know that in my bones, like this is what feels right for me. I didn't have any like identity crisis over that. I think also because I went to college too, because I went away from home to a group of people who like knew nothing about me until like I get to know them, and then I reveal, oh well, like I played soccer my whole life and like stuff like that. And like the same goes for those people. Like you learn things about them that you wouldn't know, and labels from high school don't follow you.
You get to reinvent yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and it felt good, to be honest, not to be thought of as this person is like a student athlete, and for people to get to know me first and then like find those things about myself. I don't think I went through that big of an identity crisis at the end of the day, because I had already like, when I looked at myself like in the mirror, I was like, I'm this person first, and like athlete is just a label attached to it. It's not like, it wasn't the thing that I saw myself as primarily, even when I was like playing soccer. Like I just thought of myself as like, I'm someone who just really likes soccer right now.
Sounds like everyone else's perception of you changed.
Yeah.
Not your own.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that's very true. I think that my perception of myself didn't change that much, because obviously I was the one making like the decisions. I was the one going through all these feelings, like, and so through that process, like I also wasn't thinking of myself anymore as like an athlete. So I think it was just like other people's vision of me changed more than like my own, to be honest.
Yeah. Makes sense. You get to be, I mean, that's the kind of the cool thing about going to college is people don't know you. You get to be whoever you want to be. And for you, it sounds like you finally get to be who you've always been, but that gets overshadowed by the fact that you're this amazing soccer player. People just see the you for that. They don't get to know the real you, even though that's a part of who you are. Yeah. There's so much more to a person. I think a lot of kids lose that. Like they get so focused on who they are as a player, as an athlete, they don't present themselves so much as everything else that they are. And it's a surprise to people when they find out things, versus where you are now, where it's like, yeah, I played soccer too. So they get to know you as an individual, and then, you know, playing soccer is kind of just a fun fact about your life.
Yeah, that's like where I'm at like right now. Honestly, it's funny, like, because my big in NSU just found out the other day, because I was telling him I was going to be on this podcast. And I mentioned, you know, like I was like the Foothill League like player, and he was like, what? Really? Because he played soccer with NSU, and like he would see me on the field, and like people knew how I played, but I don't think, it was just like nice not to have like all these expectations also. Definitely. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like college versus high school and being out of soccer is just like, I don't like I said before, I don't mourn it. I just see that as just like, that was just a different stage of my life that I'm in right now. Like, and I don't miss it. I'm doing all these amazing things like right now. I've met all these amazing people that I would have never met. I'm like at a campus where I probably would not have been at. And like, how could I regret it? There's nothing in my life right now to regret. Right. So, yeah. Yeah, you evolve. I mean, I think throughout your life, you evolve as an individual. When you're playing, you evolve as a player. And it sounds like you just evolved to the point where it's like the individual overtook the player, and now you're continuing to evolve as a person. Your evolution is ongoing. Yeah. And it's just, that was just part of what built you up. And for me, I loved playing sports as a kid. I always tell everyone it taught me about being a person. Like, I have a great family who taught me wonderful values and how to be a good person, but
I learned so much about myself and so much about, hard work and perseverance and resilience and how to lose. All of these things came from my experience as an athlete, but being an athlete doesn't define who I am. It's those experiences that have contributed to what I evolved into, the person I evolved into. So I can see a similar evolution pattern. It's just great.
And I think that those people who, obviously are going to play in college, I think that, of course, you can find your identity in something. There were other things, just exclusive from soccer, where it was, I had help, finding myself in other people, as opposed to, finding myself in soccer, and that gave me stability, and that helped me out a lot. And I think that you can totally do that. Your identity can develop with whatever you're doing. But for me, when I was, thinking about my future, it just was without soccer, as a serious part of my life anymore. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to give people an opportunity to see that just because you're great at this thing doesn't mean you have to continue to pursue it. I know a lot of people who would have been or maybe are in a position similar to your own would not be able to believe that you gave up an opportunity to play at the next level because they can't see themselves doing it. But I wanted people to understand that you can be a successful player and make a decision that's best for yourself and see that you're happier on the other end of it. Some people might have regretted it. There may have been a path where you went to a different school or were in a different environment and you regretted or felt like maybe it was more of a mistake. But I think if you follow your intuition and you realize who you want to be and that the journey to finding yourself is an exciting one, regardless of what is on the journey, I think I wanted people to see that you can be a very successful player and still make a decision based on yourself and what you want to do. So I appreciate you sharing that story because I know not everybody would be comfortable, sharing the emotions in the moment. So whether it be somebody who's on a similar path to you in they're considering, we'll call it retirement, but they're considering the end of their competitive career. Or they're in a place where you were before where you love it and you're contemplating moving forward and you're dedicated yourself to it. You love certain aspects of it, but you made a decision for yourself that's put you in a happier place. I always ask everybody when we come to the end of our conversation, if you had one piece of advice for that person, whether they be considering maybe not playing anymore or maybe a younger you who was on the path, this is what I want to do. If you had one piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
I think that my piece of advice would be to trust your judgment away from what other people have to say, and you have to be comfortable and accepting of the fact that there's going to be uncertainties always. Even when you're so sure that this is what I want to do or this isn't what I want to do, you're going to have questions still. Nothing is ever going to be clear. You're never going to know how things are going to go in the future, but trust your judgment and be confident in that. Even if you have uncertainties, at the end of the day, just trust yourself. It's kind of what I would have to tell people. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking with us. I think that's excellent advice. And I really appreciate your time. You're awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Good job, guys. That was excellent. Huge thank you once again to our guest, Maggie Yoshioka, our producer, Malin Blade, and all the big dogs listening. Tune into our next episode for more Athletes Unleashed. Later, homies.